You know, if I go way back in my career, back to when I first graduated from pharmacy school, I worked a couple years in the oncology department at Mercy Hospital. Way back in the day. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, where therapies were rather archaic. And as I've watched and observed cancer issues in this country, and this morning I downloaded a new piece of information about the efficacy of nutrients, supplements, and the effective, listen to this word, treatment of cancer. And I'll share that with you next week. But for now, I want to talk about one of the types of cancer that unfortunately is growing in occurrence. It's called glioblastoma, or brain cancer. And unfortunately, it's rising way, way, way too fast. And now we're even seeing it rise fast in children. It's terrible. Medical College of Georgia at Augusta released a new article this morning about the use of something called CBD, which we've talked about a lot. We'll get into this and share it with you in 1 second. The information you hear on the Nutrition Shop Health Talk with Dr. Len is strictly educational and is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Any healthcare decision should be discussed with your health professional. And now, here is Dr. Len. And again, this kind of information we're going to read to you comes from, as I look this up, the Journal of Cannabis and Cannabinoid Research, just published on December 23rd. We'll get involved in this and much, much more as we get started on this day before New Year's. And again, when you look at information like this, dealing with brain cancer, you know, we can look at this and say, if you do know somebody that's suffering from a glioblastoma, they need to approach this with their doctor, I'm sure. The information's relatively new. And I would say this, probably in the bulk of, or the majority of oncology departments, this really wouldn't be looked at positively. So this is just new information that will now work its way and dribble its way up into traditionalism. They took something called CBD, which is derived from hemp, not from marijuana, not from cannabis, but from hemp. And I'm assuming now organic hemp, which is the most effective way to extract cannabidiol out of that. And what they did is they had the individuals with the brain tumor inhale it. Quickest way to get it past the blood-brain barrier. Inhaled CBD shrinks the size of highly aggressive lethal brain tumor glioblastoma, at least in an animal model, by reducing the essential support of its microenvironment, researchers report. What's that mean? That means that when these things take hold, whatever the reason behind it, and most times we don't even know what that reason is, they sort of send their tentacles out for food and supply. So when you look at that on an MRI, you sort of look like something from a horror movie with its tentacles going out into the brain tissue, looking for a blood supply. So this said CBD shrinks the size of it by reducing its blood supply, basically trying to starve it. We saw a significant reduction in the size of the tumor, and its microenvironment was different, said Dr. Babon, immunologist and associate dean for research. Researchers here in the Medical College of Georgia said that the inhaler approach not only helped ensure the compound found reached the brain, but that the memory of delivery could, much like asthma inhalers, eventually be easy to be used by patients. It was the first study to use CBD in an animal model of glioblastoma. They report in the Journal of Cannabis and Cannabinoid Research. Using modified glioblastoma cells from humans, they created what was called an orthotopic glioblastoma model to provide the most realistic model that they could for this common, keyword, and lethal malignant brain tumor. By day 8, the aggressive tumor was established in the brain of mice, and at day 9, they started giving the daily doses of inhaled CBD or placebo and continued that for 7 days. They then looked again at the image of the tumor directly at the tumor tissue. While the approach is likely easily applicable to humans, at this juncture, they're looking primarily at the biological response of the tumor to CBD, said Dr. Martin Rutkowski, a neurosurgeon. He said this: his expertise includes operating on the patients who tend to present after a seizure or a sudden loss of consciousness, or with slower onset of neurological deficits like a weak arm, vision, or cognitive problems, all of which could be caused by glioblastoma. It's probably one of the most aggressive cancers, period, he said. We are in desperate need of research and more treatments, the neurosurgeon said. What we have right now is not working very well. Family members will bring patients in and say they're just not thinking right and their memory is all over the place, or that they got fired from their job because they're no longer able to do the things that they've been doing for 30 years. Today's treatment includes surgery, followed by chemotherapy and radiation. Surgery does not offer a cure, but does offer an important first step in maximizing quality of life and prognosis, Rutkowski said. He notes there's a clear relationship between the amount of the tumor that can be removed surgically and the length of survival. They found that CBD appeared adept at altering the tumor's ecosystem or supportive tumor environment. It's about immune balance, says Dr. Babin, corresponding author. Inflammation is heightened in response to a frontline attack on a tumor, which is a normal response. In fact, our immune system is regularly attacking cancerous or precancerous cells. But when a tumor manages to become established, the tumor takes charge, switching to producing a state of more chronic inflammation that ultimately protects it from the immune system. For a glioblastoma, the tumor microenvironment has been shown to have increased activity of natural immune checkpoints, such as their name implies, helps to prevent an overzealous immune response that could hurt the body. CBD was able to improve the immune mix against the tumor, including reducing the tumor's coping of glial cells, a brain cell type that normally protects neurons. It also suppressed the protein P-selectin, which typically plays a role in important functions like injury repair. CBD also suppressed interleukin-8, which macrophages normally release to promote inflammation and aid in injury repair. CBD also reduced other key immune checkpoints like the enzyme indoleamine, and it goes on to a big list. CBD also improved the mix by increasing expression of some good things like CD103, a complex thought to help the immune system recognize cancer. It's a puzzle, and that's why we need good immune regulators, Babin said. CBD is a very smart regulator that can make adjustments based on its environment, like turning apelin down in glioblastoma and up in the face of lungs damaged by COVID. Did you hear what he just said? Can actually support lung functionality in the cases of COVID. Right now, we're excited that the tumor shrinks, Babin said. They anticipate if CBD is eventually used for these patients, it'll be a novel adjunct to these therapies. The next steps are seeing how long the positive changes last and looking further at the impact on cancer stem cells. They also want to assess CBD's impact on high reoccurrence rates in glioblastoma. They have more evidence for hope. The latest significant advance in treating glioblastoma came more than 15 years ago with the addition of the chemotherapy drug temozolomide to radiation. CBD's skill at controlling inflammation and their research expertise in other conditions where inflammation is key, including Alzheimer's, which is, again, one of the things it's looking at right now. Here's a little piece on CBD.
Hi, this is Dr. Len. I just want to talk to you for a minute about CBD. It's all over the news now. Cannabidiol. It's a non-psychoactive phytocannabinoid molecule derived from hemp. So what's hemp? It's a plant extract. It's a grain for which they do derive a biochemical matrix of phytocannabinoids and terpenes. So it basically says, much like they make beer out of hops and grains, we can extract CBD out of hemp as well. Now, that's number one. CBD is the main prominent molecule out of the 80-plus cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant family. So I know there's been controversy galore. What's the difference? Well, cannabis, again, does deliver CBD. Hemp delivers CBD, the exact same chemical structure, but without the psychoactive part to it. Now, we've been looking for the highest quality, full-spectrum extracts. We just recently partnered with Nutritional Frontiers, who manufactures a USA form, organic, all organic form, supercritical CO2 extraction process, no toxic chemical solvents, pesticides, or herbicides ever used, and it's distilled to reduce odor and taste. We also have this now available in a tincture form, unflavored, mint, cinnamon, and lemon. Concentrated and safe for the entire family. Full spectrum hemp extract delivering CBD. Our pure CBD isolate products to help balance and regulate the endocannabinoid system. Great for pain, great for sleep, great for anxiety, great for numerous numbers of issues dealing with health. If you want more information, stop into our shop or give us a call at 678-228-8900. Our staff will be glad to give you some more information on Nutritional Frontiers Full Spectrum Hemp Extract CBD. We look forward to working with you. Take care.
And again, it's New Year's Eve. I want to thank you all for listening to me go on for my 24th year of doing radio, moving on to 25 next year. Thanks so much for being there. Thanks for listening. Please share this with others. And have a safe New Year's Eve, a safe New Year's Day, and we'll see you back here Monday. Again, the number to reach our office, 678-228-8900. God bless you, folks. Take care.